Welcome, Dr. Chase Beckett, Sports Card Insights. Thank you, sponsors, Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication, ComC.com, Burbank Sports Cards, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Heritage Auctions, Hugs and Scott Auctions, Topps, Upper Deck, and Panini. I was going to talk about my buying lane. What do I buy? I buy occasional unopened product. I don't really participate in breaks. I'm opportunistic, so I'm happy with whatever I get in the box. I realize most financially, you don't get your dollars, but I get entertainment and learning. And it's a way I can get some good cards. And I don't really want to delegate that. I don't want somebody to open boxes for me. I want to open it myself. So mainly I'm doing dollar boxes, and I don't really even do the $5 boxes and the $10 boxes and the $20 boxes, which are not junk slabs, but just slabs. And I've just realized this. I don't do very well on dollar boxes and value boxes that are very well organized. The less organized they are, the better I do. And I prefer it that way. So if I go to Burbank with my friend Rob Barris and Ryan and look through their dollar boxes or their value boxes of any kind, they are too knowledgeable, too well organized. So I don't want that level of structure. I want something way more eclectic. For example, Rich, he would like it if there was a dollar box that just had vintage cards in it, but I don't. And Rob occasionally and others sometimes, it's okay to do it by sport, but if you do it by teams or players, then it almost makes it too easy. But a lot of people would like that. In fact, at the National, you'll see some people that have things like that with extreme organization. But I might try to sell it that way, but I don't want to buy that way because I think I'm going to get a better deal. The more time somebody puts into that, the more they want to charge. If they're just throwing a bunch of cards in the box and saying, hey, I don't have time to go through them that closely, then that's exactly what I'm looking for. So I'm not focusing, trying to be eclectic. That's my lane. And I've got money and I've got time. And I have enough money that I'm not going to go broke at the dollar box, but I'm going to run out of time. Certain sports are better than others, but at least sample the boxes and see how I go. And I'm learning. I'm probably getting better. I've made mistakes of buying things that I thought was the tougher variation, and I was wrong. But there's two kinds of errors. There's not pulling something you should and pulling something you shouldn't. And so you can't beat yourself up on only one of the errors. If I miss something that I should have taken and I find out later, I think, wow, I should have taken that. And that has happened to me. But I'm going to learn from that, and then the next time I won't make that mistake. But 100% of the shots you don't take, you miss. And I just can't take the time to look up that many cards. And frankly, if you're at the showcase and you're looking, even if they're priced, you want to know, is this a good deal? Like I said, at $1, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. At $500, $5,000, you better believe I'd be pulling out in the higher amounts, trying to figure out what's a good deal there. And I try to pull 100 cards an hour. Can't always do that, but when I do, that's when I'm happiest. I don't need to pull more than that. And over time, you figure out who are the dealers that aggressively reload and restock their boxes and their inventory. Same thing, showcases. And you see the same thing you saw 2 months ago. What am I picking out? Rich has his thing. And even if I explain it, it won't make a lot of sense because they're not hard and fast rules. But obviously, if I'm in the dollar box and see an autograph card, I don't always pick them out. I used to collect autograph cards very heavily. So whether they're certified or not, if they're not, then you got to figure out, does this look like the guy's signature? Is it worth getting it authenticated or not? And some of these autograph cards that are certified are junk. They're not worth $1. Same thing with memorabilia, relic, game reuse cards. Same thing. Usually I'd pick those out. Not always. They're thicker. And the question is, why is this in the dollar box? And sometimes there'll be multiples. Some people just take a position in a product and their extra stuff, they just dump it in the dollar box. Yes, in general. Same thing with serial numbers. Lower serial numbers, you'd think that would be foolproof, but it's not. There's some overproduced products that have serial numbers that are seemingly low, but they're just plentiful. So anyway, serial numbers, nothing bad about that. Generally good, but not always. Frankly, serial number could be on the front or on the back, and I can't always see. The card show light is not always easy to see, so I might miss some. But even if I saw them, if you look at the front carefully and the back carefully of every card, you'll still be on the first of many dollar boxes. You can't even look at 100 cards an hour, much less try to pick out 100. The color variations, Same thing with the counterfeit thing. Most color variations, if they're really tougher, you have to know. Sometimes the gold is the tougher one. Sometimes the silver is the tougher one. But not always. And color matches that even if they're not serial numbered or anything, but the card just looks good. So it's a very visual thing. I'm a big fan of the movement toward buying what you like. And so it's not necessarily the number, the slab. It's looking at the card and the eye appeal. And so the eye appeal to me is if it's a color variation, hey, I'm going to pick that out. Same thing with patterns or SPs or snake skin or zebra or other kinds of things. And many of those are not serial numbered. You just have to know that some of the exotic skins or patterns are interesting. And you see a lot of that stuff in the dollar box, at least colored prisms, not necessarily the tougher ones. If I see them, I pick them out. Pose variation, same thing. I don't like to look on the back to see if it's marked as SP or SSP. You need to look at it and say, this doesn't look like all the others. I'm not encyclopedic. I'm going to give it a shot. Back variations with some of these things, again, like I said, you just can't flip every card over. On the other hand, if I see a common card and I'm thinking, why is this in the dollar box? And then I'll flip it over and say, oh, that's why it's in, because it's got the tougher back, a different color or different design or something like that. Smaller size cards, larger size cards in the dollar box. If in doubt, I don't, but occasionally I will. Some of the Allen and Ginter and things like that, they don't even stand up in the dollar box. Occasionally I've done okay, but there's some non-baseball, some celebrity cards that do pretty well. So I don't have an exhaustive list, but when I see it and I think I haven't seen that, I might pick that out. Inserts or parallels of inserts, I've done bad on those a lot of times because I don't see them that often. Then I find out they're 1 per 4 packs or something like that. But if they look really great, then I think, hey, maybe this is a good one, and it's not. But sometimes it is. Same thing with errors. That's Rich's specialty. But uncorrected errors, not a big deal. But corrected errors where there are variations. Again, if it was vintage, I think Rich would have already picked it out. Other eclectic cards, oddball cards, the fact that Rich and I spent so many years with the almanacs and the price guides. They're not always fully licensed, but they are legitimate cards and they can be in there. And again, low demand, but sometimes low supply. I don't get base cards too much. Occasionally, I will say one trick is that sometimes there are, in the last 20 years, a lot of the RCs are marked. But if you go back, if you know the rookie card years, then there is extra demand for even a base card. But generally, I try not to do base cards. Again, my problem is not money, it's time. If I compete with somebody for a dollar box, if I start at one end and somebody starts at the other end, I want to beat them to the middle. And the only way I can do that is by going fast. And I can't be fast if I'm sitting there looking at every card, studying every card. I've got to go fast. And I don't think I've ever bought a dollar box, a whole box, after I already looked through the stuff. If I walk up and I look at one box and I'm pulling a whole bunch of cards, then at that point I might say, hey, if everything is like this, I'd be interested in everything. What would you take? And I've done that a couple of times, but if I go through one box and it's pretty good, then I go through another box that's pretty good, and I go through another box that's pretty good, another box is pretty good, and I say, okay, I've been through 4 boxes, they're pretty good. I don't want to buy those 4 boxes. I already picked out the cards I wanted out of there. If I wanted to make an offer for everything, I wouldn't be putting much value on the ones I already looked through because that's no fun for me. And what I've learned from this is I don't have competition for the way I do it because people didn't have my experience, my price guide experience, my advanced collector knowledge, my long time stuff. And then frankly, I'm going back to Jeremy's hobby spectrum that I'm a hybrid. I'm emotionally connected as well as passion and profit. I can see this is more valuable or, gee, I really want to get this card. So it's a good balance. It's worked for me. And I'll probably experiment with some other things in the way to hobby because the principle's the same. If I wanted to look for $50 cards, the same philosophy would be to look in the showcases. But then you got to worry about, okay, is it strong for the grade? Is it graded by this company or this other company and all that? And I've just eliminated all that. When I'm in the dollar box, I'm just in my zone, in my lane. And I'm very fast in doing that. And I can multitask a little bit because I can talk to people that I'm next to. But there's a fraternity of people that enjoy doing that. And like I said, if people say, what are you looking for? I just can't answer that. I love the color variations. It's too easy to say, pick out serial numbered cards because, again, you can be misled on a bunch of those. But there are some color variations that just are easy sales. But you have to know, because there's nothing about it other than it's not the usual color. So you have to know what is the usual color. Same thing with poses or other kinds of things like that. And I missed some, but I've gotten more than I did before. A good portion of my national experience and card show experience is doing that. I've got some places I go, and people don't set aside things for me. It's just that people are putting things in the dollar box generally that are above a common and not necessarily base unless it's a really good player. If it's a really good player and it's base, I might pick it up, but generally I don't. I'll pick it out for a friend. I'll say, hey, you're looking, and I found one. But I'm pretty agnostic as to sport. In fact, that's how I've learned about soccer, is by buying things that looked interesting out of the dollar box, bringing them home, and seeing what they go for. For Christmas, what can my wife or friends get me with cards? They can't give me a dollar box shopping spree unless it's, hey, here's a round trip ticket to Toronto or New York City or LA for the Burbank show or something like that. And I wouldn't want my wife to do that. Hey, here's a trip for you to go away. Now, that's not the way we do it, but I did get some random acts of kindness this last year. Sometimes people will get me a card or a box or something like that, and people would not buy a dollar box and give it to me. The searching is about 90% of the fun. And to not buy certain things is fun. I don't hear people talking about going to card shows and here's what I didn't buy. Here's what I saw, but I didn't buy. Although sometimes you didn't buy it because the price was not right. I saw it, I really wanted it, but he was trying to sell for way above comps. Again, there's something to be said for looking for things that are not comparable or the comps don't come into it. And that's generally on the long tail. I just like the card. It's not going to break the bank. I'm going to have fun with it. And then if I don't want it, I'll sell it or trade it to somebody else. So I'm very deterministic. Like I said, this hobby to me is a game of skill, not luck. I'm not swayed by emotion. I bought some boxes just to have the fun of doing it and hoping I'd make some money on it. But I know it's not guaranteed. In fact, the expectation is I would not get a good return on that investment other than the enjoyment and the learning experience. I think I'm in dollar boxes for 2026. I don't think I'm going to move up. Like I said, I don't really have the concept of going after grails. In fact, 2026 may be the year where I release some grails and find a new home for some better, again, mostly vintage cards. If it's not going on my wall and it's at the bank and I don't see it that often, it may be time. So thanks, everybody. Keep hobbying the way you hobby. As Jeremy Lee pointed out, there's many ways to hobby, and now you can even have a label. I'm a hybrid.